Welcome to Hobby Evolution, episode 821. Happy Thursday, throwing it back. Throwing it back on Thursday. That means I don't have a topic to talk about. I racked my brain for like 3 minutes. Most exercise my brain has got. Couldn't think of a topic. Couldn't even think about what to write in the description. So visit my eBay store. eBay store is in the link. We've got Ed in the house. What's up, Ed? Terry, good morning. Todd is here. Augusta Lawn Care is here for a bit. Can't stay long. Have to work. Wanted to pop in. Thank you, Augusta Lawn Care. Sal Dougie Cards, what's up? Victor's in the house. Got some good news and great news yesterday. Dan is here. What's up? We've got Andrew and Dean. What's happening? Eric is here. Good morning. Hall of Fame card collector. We've got Brian Wolf in the house. What's happening? Got some good news. Got some great news. One, actually, both could be considered professional. One personal, one professional. So the good news, FedEx finally decided to deliver my supplies that I ordered like 10 days ago. Columbia Hobby shipped them fast. Like, I think I ordered on Sunday, and they were like freaking picked up by FedEx on Monday. Merle is here. What's happening? Good morning to you. On a truck, and then there must have been some weather between Oregon and Wisconsin. I'm sure there was. It was February in, what states would that be? Colorado, Wyoming, one of the Dakotas. What is the route from Oregon? By the way, I was just thinking this yesterday. My mom and my cousin went to visit my aunt in Oregon. And I'm going to be heading to spring training. So it looks like from Troutdale, oh yeah, they go the northern route. So they're taking Montana, North Dakota, down into Minnesota, down into Wisconsin. So yeah, I'm sure that FedEx truck ran into some winter weather somewhere in Montana and North Dakota. Kyle, what's happening? Been thinking, what are we all supposed to do in the morning when you go to spring training? That's a great question. I don't know. I will do a couple live segments from Mesa. But since I'll be I think 2 hours or 1 hour behind there, it certainly won't be 7 a.m. Central, but it might be 8 a.m. Central or 9 a.m. Central, but everybody's like off doing their day by that point. But I will go live from the hotel room in Mesa. So you think my Wi-Fi is bad? Just wait till I get to a hotel. Clark is here. What's up? Harlan in the house. We've got Brian Dean. What's up? David is here. Good morning. So, so my mom's out in Oregon. I'm heading to spring training. 10 years ago, it was the opposite. In fact, I had to cancel my spring training. It would have been my first spring training trip. I think it would have been 11 years ago, 2012. My dad was still with us. It would have been nice to go to spring training with my dad. Never was able to make that trip. But my mom and dad went to spring training. My sister and brother-in-law have a house in, I think, Sun City, Buckeye, out in that area. So my parents went down to visit my sister, brother-in-law for spring training, 2012. I think my sister they had just bought the house down in Arizona. So had everything planned because now I worked in college athletics, Division I college basketball for a low major, Western Illinois University, the Leathernecks. The Leathernecks in, let's see, at that point, it would have been 30 years. In 30 years of playing Division I basketball, the Western Illinois Leathernecks had never played in a postseason tournament. 0 for 30. To this day, now we're at 40 years. I think 40 years on the dot for Western Illinois in D1 basketball. 0 appearances in the NCAA tournament, but they've made a couple postseason appearances. Fortunately and unfortunately, one of those was in 2000. The first one was in 2012. So I was there for history, but it coincided with my planned spring training trip. And guess where I went? Oregon. So I was in Oregon, which is not nice in March. It's cold and rainy. So I was in we stayed in Salem, Oregon. And then we played Oregon State. The Beavers, we played OSU in the, what was it? The CBI. It wasn't even the NIT. It was the College Basketball Invitational, I think, the CBI, which I don't even know if that, there were actually, back in 2012, there were 4 postseason tournaments in college basketball. There was, of course, the big one, NCAA, the NIT, which we all know. And then there was the College Basketball Invitational. That's where we played. And then there was also the CIT, which was basically a mid-major tournament. So we played Oregon State, the Beavers. It was hell. We got beat by 30, but the trip was just, we had to drive down to, we drove to St. Louis from Macomb. Where's Macomb? It's in my pocket. We had to drive from Macomb to St. Louis, which is about a 3-hour drive. So we're riding the bus down to St. Louis. Half of our travel party flew, we flew St. Louis to Denver to Portland. The other half flew St. Louis to Seattle to Portland. So we were split up. So it was like the B team flew Denver to Portland with no issue. I was on, of course, the B team. The A team, which was like our head coach and most of the players, they flew to Seattle. The coaches, I think all the coaches and most of the top players. I think a couple of the reserves were on the B team with us. We were like the low, the equipment manager, the trainer, the director of basketball operations, a couple of the reserves, me and my buddy Kyle, who was the sports information director. We flew Denver to Portland. No issues. We land in Portland. And it's like, because I think the Seattle flight was supposed to land before. Nobody's there, and nobody's answering. Our basketball ops guy is like, he's the one in charge for all the travel. He's like, calling, nobody's answering. Oh crap, what's going on? So we're looking up like the flight, like, where's the flight? It was it delayed? I think their flight might have been out of St. Louis, because we were already in the air, I think. And the St. Louis to Seattle flight was like behind us anyway. So they got to Seattle late because they were delayed in St. Louis. They get to Seattle late, which meant they missed the connecting flight from Seattle to Portland. So here we are in Portland. We've got a bus waiting for us. Now, Portland to Salem, I think, is a pretty good hike. I remember being on the bus for a while. Portland, Oregon to Salem, Oregon. What's the drive time on that? Yeah, that's a hike. Oh, it's an hour. That's not bad. So it's only an hour. And then what's Salem to Corvallis? That was about an hour, I think. Maybe a half hour to Corvallis. The drive time on that. How come it didn't? About 40 miles. So yeah, half hour to Corvallis from Salem. So anyway, they had, and this is like late at night, the A team had to rent a Suburban in Seattle and drive from Seattle to Salem. And I think that's a 4-hour drive. What's the drive time? Salem, Oregon to Seattle. It's like 4 hours. Cause I remember we had to drive to Seattle for the trip back. Yeah, 3 hours and 48 minutes. And I don't know if our bus drivers, some of our bus drivers were like Otto and they were like freaking cruising. Some of them just really were pokey and took their time. Which I guess I'd rather have a pokey take your time driver than freaking Otto going 100 in a freaking bus with 25, 30 people on it. Anyway. So and then we got beat. My parents were down having a good time in spring training, and my first spring training trip would not come for another 8 years. 2020 was my first spring training. 2020, just before COVID. If I would have planned it 2 weeks later, that one would have got scrapped because of COVID. But I made it out there in 2020, made it back before the world shut down. So my mom, Oregon, me, Arizona this year. I leave next Tuesday. What do we got going on in the chat? We learned some we learned some Pacific Northwest geography. Jenny's in the house. What's up, Jenny? Catch y'all tomorrow for some Name That Player. We will play Name That Player. We're going back to baseball. We're gonna keep it 90s, and then we'll step back into the 80s next week. So we're gonna do 90s Name That Player. Baseball, since we've got some spring training action. Games started last weekend. I can't watch any because I don't have MLB Network. I don't have my password yet for MLB TV. Usually we share in our fantasy baseball league. I wonder if they're going to cut down, if MLB is going to cut down on that. So we've got like 6 guys that split it. Herman in the house. What's up, Herman? Good morning. James is here. Oh, James dropping some Macomb references. James, I love it. The pace and the dog pound, which sadly neither are in existence anymore. The pace closed last year. The dog pound's been gone for a long time. So I know James is my age because of the dog pound reference. If he was older, he would say the Purple Pride. And if he was younger, he would say there was a bar after it. I can't remember what it was called. But I hit the dog pound a few times. They had I'm sure it was Keystone, dollar Keystones. Might have been quarter back then. The dog pound. My house, the last house that I lived in Macomb, drove by the dog pound every day. Instead of going right to campus, right there at the stoplight where the dog pound was and the cemetery across the street, you took a left. I lived out that way. And the pace was the place, man. Oh man, spilled a lot of beer, literally and figuratively, at the change of pace, which I believe was bought. I saw some like artist rendering of what they're going to do to the pace. Looks pretty cool. I have not been to Macomb. All of my friends gave me shit. They said, you're never going to leave Macomb. Because what happened was I went there to go to school, and then I stayed for 12 years. I stayed so long that I eventually went to school. But then they're like, oh, you're never going to leave. You're going to graduate. You're finally going to graduate. You're finally going to graduate, Van Wilder, and you're going to just get a job at the university, and you're going to be a lifer, which that did not happen. And I have not been back in. I think the last time I was in Macomb was maybe 2015. God dang, it's been 8 years, 7, 8 years since I've been back. And really the reason that I went back like the first 2 years after I left was because I still owned my house and I was renting it out. And then I was selling it. So that's what took me back a few times after I moved away. Paul Heath is here. What's up, Paul? John says Salem to Corvallis, not a quick commute. No, when you're in the bus league in Division I, low major, you nothing is a quick commute. I mean, we 8-hour bus rides were the norm. You know, it's not like you think the blue bloods of college basketball. We were about as opposite as it gets. There were no charter flights. There were no. It was a lot of bus rides. It was a lot of like puddle hoppers. I mean, the nearest airport for us was an hour and a half bus ride. to either the Quad Cities or Peoria. So we had to ride on a bus for an hour and a half just to get to the airport. And then we would and then it was like a small airport. So then we would have to take a puddle hopper from either Peoria or the Quad Cities, fly to Chicago, typically, and then fly out from O'Hare. Paige and Deanie Bean says, I can't wait for the good news. I've got good news and great news today. Talking Tatis, what's up? Zach and Porter, good morning to you. Cooter says, the Oregon State Capitol building is unique. Reminds me of something out of a 1940s Superman comic book or a mortuary. That's interesting. I don't know if I visited. I did visit. We played Alabama State in Montgomery. So I did take a walk around, and I did check it out, the state capitol in Alabama. A lot of history down there. Red Light 34 in the house. What's up? John says, I quit commutes when you're a roadie either. Yeah. It's like the low major bus rides in college athletics. So I have some good news. The good news is my supply order came. I think I talked about that. Maybe I did talk about that. The supply order came. Oregon to Wisconsin. So I ordered 3 cases of penny sleeves. So I'm good to go on penny sleeves. So I will have them but my next card show won't be, I guess it's a quick turnaround. The next Madison card show is coming up. I need to get on that before I head to spring training. March 18th, Saturday, March 18th is the next Madison card show. Sheraton Hotel, John Nolan Drive, 125 tables. Tables are available. I've got about 10 regulars that will be missing the March show because unfortunately it coincides with the Chicago Sports Spectacular. So I've got about 10 regulars that will be out. So I do have availability. I already have some first-time dealers for the March show. For those that are interested. Let's see. Where are we at? So I've got Drew. Drew's a first-timer. He's going to have 3 tables. Let's see. Josh is out. So Josh is out. I've got Joel. Joel is actually Joel was set up at the last show. He was in Jake's table, so Joel's back. Let's see. Craig is going to be a new dealer. He's filling in for my buddy Josh. Pokemon Josh, if you've been to the Madison Card Show. Where's the Pikachu hat? So Craig will be in Josh's tables. Let's see. Old School Collectibles. He's back just for the second time. Let's see. Joe is back. I think it's going to be Joe's 3rd show. Let's see. Mason with 494 cards. He's going to be a first-time dealer. Ray's back after a few months off. Greg is back for just the second time. Greg had amazing vintage, like pre-war vintage. So I'm excited to have Greg back. Let's see. And Chad is going to be a first-time dealer. So it looks like 3 or 4 first-timers, a couple guys that are going to be back. Nice rotation. So I can start. I think we had I think I ended up with 30 dealers at the February show that did not set up at the January show. And it's probably going to be, it might even be more than that in March, just because of the turnover just for the month of March. And some regulars stepping out. Snapping Collectibles in the house. What's up? Good morning. Good morning, Johnny Boy Cards. Mike is here. Lester is here. So I don't have any topics to talk about. I really don't have much to talk about. Famous last words when we're sitting at 2 hours. I'm only 19 minutes in, though. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please drop them in the live chat. We can get to those. I do have great news. Flipping sports guy, Bo, with not much to talk about. I know, right? I do have great news, however. I do have great news. Now, remember, we're renovating the house. We closed on December 30th. We started demo an hour after we signed the papers. Scotty Dubs, what's up? And we ran into some issues with the city over the building permit. And so we've been battling that. Ran into some issues early January with that. Had to resubmit the plans. There were more questions. I think it went from 30 or 35 notes to 15. We got another set of plans. And finally, on March 1st, the building permit was approved yesterday. So now we're really cooking with Crisco. So that's part of the reason why I haven't done many updates on the basement, the card room stuff, because not much is. My windows are in. All of the new windows are now. All of the windows have been replaced, including there's a big, and one of the issues, the holdup, we were able to replace most of the windows because we don't need a permit to replace the windows. But the big window that overlooks the backyard, it's actually moving over several inches. So we couldn't do that until we were permitted. So once we got that green light, that was accomplished yesterday. So that's in. So we actually have our electrical walkthrough later this morning. And then we can, I think next, so windows are replaced. I think we've got insulation. We've got to tear out old insulation, put new insulation in. Let's see, HVAC and plumbing is next. And then I think we can start drywall down in the basement. So exciting times, finally, like a big relief, because it was getting really stressful as the calendar turned and we still didn't have an answer. Dean wants to know how long you have been doing a morning show. So this is episode 821. So it's going on 3 years. I think the 3-year anniversary will be in June. I'd have to go back and look to see at episode 1, but 821 episodes and going on 3 years for Hobby Evolution. I have other morning shows that I did back in my radio days. Actually, going back to like my early radio days. I was the sports guy at the Hawk 102.5 WHHK, Galva, Illinois, and I would do like the pop-in. So we had our morning show, B Daniels in the morning. So B was on the air, and then I would pop in and do like my live sports casts, and then we would like banter back and forth. And then I went on to do the K100 morning show, and that's where I had Cooking with Bo. And then my partner left for greener pastures, and I was left on my own, and I did a solo morning show, and I hated it. Absolutely hated it. I was in my GM's office like every week. I hate it. Take me off the mornings, which is usually the opposite. People beg to be on mornings. I hated it. And then they rewarded me by not only keeping me on mornings, but they granted my wish of leaving the K100 morning show, and they punished me by putting me on the country morning show. I played, this is back in Toby Keith's days. And I think Taylor Swift, I think I was doing the morning show when Taylor Swift's first single, Tim McGraw, was hitting the charts. But for the cards, Hobby Evolution started June of 2020, and today is episode 821. Mike wants to know, what's your oldest Cubs card in your collection? 1887. I've got 2 of them. 1887 Old Judge. I've got a Duke. Oh man, and I always forget his name. Duke somebody. And I also have another one that I bought there. You could find them not a lot easier, but you could find them easier back 10 years ago than what you can now. In fact, about 10 years ago, there was a seller, I think he was based out of Michigan, a vintage guy, and he had like 7 or 8, and he was like dead set on his prices. Now, in hindsight, of course, I wish I would have bought them all. Didn't have the money. But those prices have gone up considerably. Now it's now you can't even find it. If I look up 1887 Old Judge, let's just see if there's any, because I haven't done this. Oh. So I listed my Jackson Holidays. I sold one last night, $5. Paid 17 cents for that and 29 others. So let's see, 1887 old Judge. Let's type in Chicago. You don't want to do Cubs because they were the Chicago White Stockings in the late 1800s. So there's 20 results populate. There's a silver flint. Looks like it's been skinned. It's got a lot of paper missing in the corner. My fear would be SGC would not slab that. We've got an 1887 Old Judge King Kelly. That's in a PSA slab for a cool $7,000. We've got an 1887 Old Judge Tom Daly. It's in an authentic slab. $400 or best offer. That's a decent price. We've got an Old Judge Fred Pfeffer, skinned, $268 or best offer. Rip Van Hultren, $1,500. Whew. Let's see. Oh, we've got a Bill George, $350. Was he a Cub? Or I should say a White Stocking? No. New York. Yeah, I don't recognize that name. So those are my oldest. I think it's just those two from the 1800s I have. And then I have a bunch of various tobacco cards, T205, T206, T202s, what are they called? The strip cards. Let's see, where are we at in the chat? Mark Marinello's here. What's happening, Mark? Dan says, I remember when you had to leave for work. Oh, yes. You know, and that wasn't of Hobby Evolution. I'm trying to think of how often I had to leave for work. Because in 2020, when I started this, I was working from home. When did I go back to the office? Oh, it might have been, was it in July? It was around July 4th. But I think initially I was only back in the office for a month. And then we had a COVID scare in the office. And it's like, okay, now you can work from home more. So I went back and most of us went working from home. So I think there was a month. And then I think there was, so that was in 2020 when I first started Hobby Evolution. Actually, no, you know what? No, I take that back. It was Memorial Day. It was the Tuesday after Memorial Day. I had not even, or was that 2021? No, 2020. COVID. I can't remember. So I think initially, maybe Hobby Evolution started in July. I bet it started in July because initially we worked from home starting in, I think, April. And then we all went back to the office the Tuesday after Memorial Day. But then around 4th of July, that's when we had of 2020, we had somebody in the office. I think his wife got COVID. So then like half the office went back working from home. And we did that for almost a year. So that's when I would have started Hobby Evolution, was my second work from home stint. But then I would have went back to the office, I think, in probably around Memorial Day the following year, 2021. And then I was working in the office for about 3 months. So only of the 821 episodes, probably 90, less than 100 was when I was actually working in an office and not working from home. John says wrenches have been revoked. Yes, I took away everybody's wrenches. So here's the story of the wrenches. I thought, and I didn't learn this until recently, like within the last couple weeks. Initially, I thought anybody could drop a link in the chat. Oh, you got a link? Drop it in the chat. You could only do that with a wrench. So then I just started being Oprah and I gave everybody a wrench because I just thought, you can now, I didn't know there were like moderating rules. Like I didn't know if you had a wrench, like what you did affected the entire channel. And what happened a few times, like people would accidentally like mute people, hide people. And in one occasion, I had somebody reach out to me and they're like, hey, is everything cool with us? And I'm like, yeah, why? This was like a year ago. He's like, well, none of my comments are showing up on the chat. And I went back and I looked into my back, and that user had been like hidden from the channel. And then we've had a lot of instances lately where people are muting people. And so I don't want any censorship unless you're being a dick, and then we can censor you. So I just felt that in the best interest of everybody, because here's the thing: if you disagree with somebody's comment and you mute them and they disappear from the chat, if everybody started doing that, we wouldn't have a chat. There wouldn't be anything. It'd just be me talking into the computer screen, and 10 minutes later we'd be done. So that's why I took everybody's wrench away. I didn't want to play favorites, and I just if everybody wants, I think it's just best for all to just revoke all wrenches. Cooter says, now the clock is really running on moving your cards. My wife made that say. She goes, good news, we got the building permit. Now you got to really start selling your bulk. Yes, I do. I did have somebody email me yesterday. I've got to respond. I put an ad on Craigslist for a second one, because yes, Cooter, that building permit approval. It's like now it's like I mean, even before it would, like, we knew it was gonna get approved at some point. When, we didn't know. But yeah, here I am, and it's like, oh shit. She's like, yeah, we're gonna put this house on the market in 30 days. And I'm like, oh f, because 7 of those I'm gonna be gone. So now I'm busting ass to get shit moved. So yeah, the clock is counting. So hopefully I can get some more bulk moved, and I'm like, I told my wife, I was like, at that point I was defeated. It was like the ultimate high and low. The building permit, yes, finally. Now you really got to get rid of your cards. Oh. And I'm like, I'm just going to throw some away. And you know what my wife said? She said, don't. And I'm like, what? They're junk. I mean, I can sell them for like fractions of a penny in bulk, but I got so many, I can't find buyers. Like, I'm just going to dump them. I'll keep the boxes. She's like, don't, just move them to the new house. But in that moment in time, Cooter's voice, I had Cooter on my shoulder. Whoa, that's what she said. I had Cooter on my shoulder. Oh, anyway, I did not tell my wife that. Anyway, I had this little voice in my head saying, don't move those cards now, because if you move them now, they'll be all disorganized. And when you go to move in, it's just a mess. So I took that to heart, and I'm like, I'm just going to throw them effers away. But my wife's like, just try to sell them. So it's a bridge I'll cross. So try to get rid of bulk. So anybody buy my bulk. Let's see. Rich says, doing Taylor Swift. Where are we at? That's what she said. Sounds like a good morning to me. Bo is inviting the bots to return, and he'll fight them single-handed. Bruce, what's up? Have you thought about using a film applied to your windows in your memorabilia room to reduce UV damage? I didn't know that existed until a couple days ago. So it's something I'll look into, because I actually wrote that down. Film on the windows, show your slabs has UV protection, and Amazon mag cases have UV protection. So those are written down on my whiteboard in front of me. So that's all stuff I'm gonna look into, because I'll have significantly more natural light in my rec room, and actually probably about this. Actually in my office, I'll probably have less natural light in my office, even though there's 2 windows. In my rec room, there's 3. There's a long windows. But some of the natural light in my office will be obstructed by, there's going to be a deck like up top that will kind of provide some shade. Cooter says, battling the bots won't be a problem as Bo stays so current with the chat. That's true. Paige and Dee Bean, it's all my fault, John. It wasn't your fault specifically. That was that was kind of it's like, okay, too many issues lately. We had a couple incidents last week too, so it was a collective effort. Mark, what's your Mount Rushmore of Cubs? That's a loaded question. That's a good one though. It's tough because I like to do it by era, because I think we have recency syndrome where we forget about everybody who played before 1960 or 1950. Basically pre-war, we totally forget. So I think there's got to be representation of every era. And that means somebody gets left off. So I think pre-war, for the Cubs, it's so difficult. I mean, you've got Tinker, Evers, and Chance. I think maybe Frank Chance gets the nod there because he was also manager. You've got guys from the 1800s. But those guys, it's like, well, and some of and I'm sure Cap Anson was, we knew he was an asshole. But I bet a lot of those guys were, in the 1800s, early 1900s, times were a lot different back then, not giving that a pass, but we knew Cap Anson was an asshole. I'd say maybe Frank Chance from the pre-war era. And then the what would you call like the 50s and 60s, the glory days, the best generation, I don't know. Ernie Banks for sure belongs on that regardless of era. So we've got Frank Chance, Ernie Banks, and then we've got some modern-ish players. I think Sandberg probably, Rhino. So I've got Sandberg, Banks, Chance, and man, because now you're getting into guys where it's like you've got Fergie Jenkins, you've got Greg Maddux, you've got let's see, Sammy Sosa, Ron Santo. And I say Ron Santo, I hear some eyes rolling. I can hear it. What it means to me is what Ron Santo did not only as a player, but what he did for the organization throughout his life. I actually had a really good private chat in one of my group chats on Cubs. And we were talking about Cubs Hall of Fame. Now, the Cubs Hall of Fame is it's kind of like me giving out wrenches a year ago. Everybody gets a Hall of Fame nod. It's like, who's going to be in from 2016? If it was me, I lean towards small Hall of Fame. And that's kind of a new thing for me. Like, I used to be like, well, he should get in. Well, if Harold Baines is in, everybody else should get in. But now it's like, okay, let's just stop. Let's plug the hole. And let's just stop comparing. If this guy's in, this guy should be in, because then when does it end? That's kind of how I feel about the Hall of Fame now. Okay, let's just cut it. Let's accept it. Some guys are in that maybe they shouldn't be, but let's not continue this and create such a huge Hall of Fame. Cubs Hall of Fame. I said from the 2016 World Series Cubs, who did I say? Bryant, Rizzo, and John Lester. Okay. This conversation started because the original person that posted it says he posed, I think Wilson Contreras was a lock for the Cubs Hall of Fame. But now that he's come out and he's like talking shit about the Cubs, now that he's in a Cardinals uniform, I may end up despising Wilson Contreras as much as Yadier Molina, as much as it pains me to say. I've met Wilson Contreras. He's a great guy, but he's starting to talk and it's pissing me off. It'd piss me off less if he was talking in a Yankees uniform or an Astros uniform or anything else other than the Cardinals. It'd piss me off if he was in a Brewers uniform also. Those are about the only two teams that would really piss me off. Cardinals and Brewers. Certainly the Cardinals. So I'm like, no. Wilson Contreras, no. But I could make a case, but I'm like, this is, I think it's Bryant, Rizzo, Lester right now, today, March 2023. In 20 years, in 30 years, there could be, and I used references. Here's we're playing the what if game. We're playing the what if game as it is anyway, with who do you think will be in the Cubs Hall of Fame? So it's all a what if. So might as well keep going down the what if trail. You could have an example of Dexter Fowler, who you don't really think of. Yeah, he was great. He was a great leadoff hitter, big home runs in 2016. But you don't think, oh, he's going to get in the Cubs Hall of Fame. But now he's working for Marquee Network. What if he spends the next 30 years in the Cubs organization as a broadcaster, or, goes into coaching, and all of a sudden he's dedicated 40 years of his life to the Chicago Cubs organization, and he's like a face of the Cubs. Now he's a lock to get in the Cubs Hall of Fame. If David Ross wins the World Series as the Cubs manager, he's a lock for the Cubs Hall of Fame. And who would have thought that? In 2015, he was like, I dislike David Ross almost as much as Yadier Molina, because he had to come over from the Red Sox with John Lester. And it's like, here we go. We've got this 175 hitter. He's only in the lineup because John Lester is pitching. Here we go. But then in year two, in the great year of 2016, David Ross actually hit pretty well, hit some big home runs. And then all of a sudden he's a fan favorite. He's on Saturday Night Live. He's on the night show, the Tonight Show, whatever it is. And then he becomes the Cubs manager. Like, what kind of crazy ass movie is that? And I said, Kyle Hendricks is still writing his story. Like, he's the only active 2016 Cubs player still with the team. So he's still writing his book. And I think you make a case for Kyle Hendricks in the Cubs Hall of Fame. A couple other guys mentioned Jake Arrieta. I'm like, Jake Arrieta had two great, phenomenal. In those 2 years, he was Hall of Fame of all baseball for 2 years. But 2 years does not a Hall of Famer make. For those 2 years, yeah, he was the best in the game. You have him on the short list of best pitching seasons of all time in 2015. And he followed that up. He still had a great 2016. So, but he just didn't have a long, he fell, after those 2 years, he really fell off. But yeah, he's got that. And now he's not really a face of the Cubs. He bounced around. Actually came back to the Cubs and didn't do shit. But he's not a spotlight guy. So I wouldn't put him in. And then somebody mentioned, well, they've got like 8 guys from the 69 Cubs and they choked. And it's like, well, okay, who do we think they'll put in? Well, they'll probably put the whole damn team in, because we're going to worship the 2016 Cubs in Chicago like we still, 40 years later, worship the 85 Bears. So Mark got me on a kick. I don't know if I could name a fourth Cub on Mount Rushmore. Frank Chance, Ernie Banks, Ryan Sandberg. I don't know who I'd put my fourth guy in, because then all of a sudden it's like, well, if you put him, what about him? What about him? You got to really crunch the numbers. Augustus says you had to leave from work from your basement laptop to your upstairs listing computer. That is true. That is true. Harlan says my oldest West Virginia player is an old Judge, Sam Barkley. There are a couple West Virginia players in that set that I will never have. One of them is a local area guy who was a baseball nobody, but his old Judge cards sell for like $30K. Holy damn, that's a lot. Dan says Hobby Evolution episode 2 aired on August 1st. Interesting. So it must have been July 31st when episode 1 aired. We've got Jason Puck in the house. What's up? Let's see where we at. Oh, where we at? Jason Puck. There's Jason Puck. Paige and DD Bean. Twice I did that. I do not deserve the wrench. I'm sorry, everyone, for my failures as a human. We forgive you. Big Chunkas, good morning. Love the design of those 75 tops you have listed. 75 tops. Yes, check out my eBay store. I listed a bunch of 70s cards that I pulled out of the basically penny boxes that I bought on Sunday at the Janesville Card Show. The dealer next to me had quarter boxes, and he's like, these are my only quarter boxes. He's like, if you buy them, you won't have competition from me. And I'm like, hey, that's a great plan. And he gave me a great price. So basically a penny per card. There was like a stack this high, and they're in like lesser condition. 70, 71, 73, 4, and 5. I don't think there were any 72s in there. A lot of 70s and a lot of 73, 4, and 5. But there was like a Reggie Jackson, a poor condition 73 tops Reggie Jackson. There were other Hall of Famers. It's like, damn. Just on those 70s cards, I'll make my money back. Let's see. Kyle says, let me know when the NASCAR cards get unearthed. We'll be happy to get them out of your way. Cooter says, don't keep any box except the same style of 4-row. Everything creates a Tetris game. I just don't know if time allows me to. I still have to find boxes at a reasonable price, and then it becomes, where do I put them? Or actually moving them from box to box. I can't do that in 30 days. Herman says, build a pallet for Goodwill and just skip the next time. Hey, Herman, that's a good idea. Or I could donate it. We have other drop-offs. We have like St. Vinny's, a Grace. So yeah, I could just, all of the stuff I've picked through from Goodwill, I'll just donate to the other so it doesn't end up in the next Goodwill pallet. Herman says, FYI, I installed window film for 20 plus years. Interesting. Okay. Victor, the rookie card specialist, what's up? Look for a paper recycling plant near you. They pay a penny per pound. Last I checked, which was 3 years ago. Interesting. Penny per pound. Might make a few bucks. John says, does your wife think your house shows better with or without your furniture in it? She's a big stager. So we will have it with furniture in it. I think she's definitely, no doubt about it. It's all staged. So in fact, if there's an empty house that she has listed, she will stage it. So staging is always better. But I understand the other point. Like, some people don't want to see like somebody's couch. It's also, it has to be staged like professionally. Like, don't trust me. Don't trust my Keystone light boxes and milk crates. The milk crate dining table. Don't trust me to stage a house. But my wife, you can trust my wife to stage a house. But yeah, definitely staged as opposed to an empty, unfurnished house when it's shown. Brian says blackout shades and/or curtains for when you're not in the office. That's a decent idea. Dan says planning on doing a top favorite looking Burley card. How high should I go? 10, 20, 30? Do 100. Big Al Cub fan, what's up? I named my son Ryan after number 23. Love it. Rhino. Augusta chimes in with Greg Maddox. Max, what's up? If Sammy isn't there, it's irrelevant. But I don't know. Do you put Sammy on the 4? I mean, when you only have 4, I don't know. Sammy's in my conversation. Sean Dunstan. Keith Moreland. Mark Grace. Sammy would be on my short list. So here, okay. So my 3, Frank Chance, Ernie Banks, Sandberg. Then I have a short list. Short list would be Cap Anson, Joe Tinker, Hack Wilson, Rogers Hornsby. Even though he didn't play much, he also managed the team. He'd probably be towards the bottom of my short list. Let's see. Ron Santo, Billy Williams, Maddox, Fergie Jenkins. That would be my short list. I would say anybody that played this century, with the exception of Sosa, I would not have on my list just because it's still too recent. Sosa would be probably the newest player that I would have in consideration for a Mount Rushmore of Cubs, but he's definitely on my short list. Robert's in the house. What's up? Started promoting my $20 and under listings 2 days ago. Sold 16 cards in 2 days. including 2 slabs over $50 each. So promoting low dollar stuff drives traffic to all listings. Robert, I love it. I love it. It does. You will see, and go into your stats and just the difference. And I wrote it down. Do I have the Post-it note? Yes, I still do. For reference on promoted listings, I in a 3-day period, and I did Friday through Sunday on each of my comparisons. Friday through Sunday, middle of February, the 17th through the 19th to be exact, with my promoted listings impressions, I had just over 2 million impressions in that 3-day period. And this is with no sales, just normal days. A 3-day period, Friday through Sunday in January, about the same period of time, the middle of January as opposed to the middle of February. This is when I went to the Cubs convention. So I ended my promoted listings. 3-day period. Remember, my 3-day February period was over 2 million impressions. That January period with no promotions, 358,000 impressions. That's how big of a difference. That's how many more eyeballs you get on promoted listings. Now, I promote typically between 5 and 10%, but it also generates a lot more revenue than not promoting at all. So that's something you have to weigh, and it's worth a shot at just playing around with it. Robert did, and it worked out for him. May not work for everybody. It's worked for me. It worked for Robert. Lester, I gave away a lot of cards to kids. They love to have them. John says all but banks don't belong in a small hall. This is, I don't know what that's in reference. So I'm talking Cubs Hall of Fame, not Hall of Fame in general. The Hawk, Andre Dawson. I would not put the Hawk on my short list. Max's Mount Rushmore, Ernie Banks, Sandberg, Sosa, and Harry Carey. Hey, I like your Harry Carey. Okay. I like it. And I think I go back to Frank Chance because I want every era represented. That's my issue. Jason Puck, didn't Fred McGriff wear Cubs? He sure did. I think he only played, 2 seasons with the Cubs? Let's see. Steve Ains Comedy, good morning. What's up? Where we at? John says, if you associate Fred McGriff with the Cubs, then you're doing everything in your life wrong. I'm a diehard Cubs fan, and I forget that Fred McGriff played for the Cubs. So just to clarify, when I was talking Cubs Hall of Fame, the Cubs actually have a Hall of Fame. So I'm not talking about Cooperstown. I'm talking about Wrigley Field, Chicago Cubs only Hall of Fame. That's the names. I certainly don't think John Lester is a Hall of Famer. He's actually, if you look at his numbers, he's kind of a fringe guy. I'm backtracking and going smaller hall, so I don't think John Lester is a Hall of Famer. Who else did I say? Bryant and Rizzo. I mean, they're still writing their stories at this point in time. It's like they've got to get in the Cooperstown Hall of Fame. Bryant and Rizzo would have to do a lot. So what my reference to was the Chicago Cubs team Hall of Fame, not Cooperstown. Let's see. Rich Klein. Back in the day when boxes were cheaper, I used to purchase the 3,200 count boxes at like $3 for the donations I received. Dan says, who are the 4 biggest Cub failures, busts that come to mind in your time watching them? That's a loaded. There's so many. I think Ty Griffin was somebody that, and I'm just going to have to go in your time watching. Okay. So probably Ty Griffin's probably going back to the earliest, since I was, a kid, but he had so much, even in hindsight, as an adult reading about him and everything that he was hyped up to be. He was a big key to that 88 Team USA Olympic team. So Ty Griffin, and he didn't even make it past AA. So Ty Griffin was a disappointment. Corey Patterson had so much hype behind him. He had a decent career in MLB, but certainly did not meet the hype. Let's see. Lance Dixon was another guy that early 90s Cub. I think they just kind of brought him up too fast, pitched in 3 games, and that was it. So those are some of the guys that come to mind quickly. There were a lot of guys in the early 2000s, and I think I just didn't understand the game as much in those early 2000s because I thought everybody was going to be a can't miss prospect, and a lot of them missed in the late 90s and early 2000s for the Cubs. Let's see. Rich says, now I just get leftovers in boxes from other people as they cost $8 to $12 depending on the store and size. Yeah, I'm one of those guys that I save when I get 4-rows. I pull the cards out and put them in a generic Amazon box because I don't want to part with a 4-row box because I can use those. John says, imagine burning a gallon of gas to get a $2 check from a paper recycling center. Frito Dorito, what's up? Good morning. Go electric. It's electric. Dun, 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 dun. Rick Monday. Let's see. Let's see who's in the Cubs Hall of Fame. Chicago Cubs Hall of Fame. I know there's like 8 players. Somebody mentioned there's like 8 players in the 69 team. So it's a long list. My goodness. So these are Cubs Hall of Famers, not Cooperstown. This is the Chicago Cubs Hall of Fame. Let me make sure I'm correctly saying that. Or are these? Nope, I think those are actual Hall of Famers. I want to know what the Chicago Cubs Hall of Fame is. Do the Cubs have a Hall of Fame? Looks like there's 59. Chicago Cubs Hall of Fame. So, and here is the criteria. I didn't even know that it went. So this is the Chicago Cubs Hall of Fame, not Cooperstown. Chicago Cubs Hall of Fame. 5+ years as a Cub and significant contributions to the organization. The Chicago Cubs Hall of Fame includes 59 plaques. So here are the Chicago Cubs Hall of Fame. Again, not Cooperstown. Grover Cleveland Alexander, Three Fingers Brown, Frank Chance, Kiki Kyler. I think I pronounced that wrong. I think it's Kai Kyler. Ernie Banks, Phil Cavaretta, John Clarkson, Johnny Evers, Clark Griffith, Stan Hack, Billy Herman, King Kelly, Charlie Grimm, Gabby Hartnett, Rogers Hornsby, Don Kessinger, Joe McCarthy, Charlie Root, Ron Santo, Albert Spalding, Andy Pafko, Jimmy Ryan, Hank Sauer, Joe Tinker, Hippo Vaughn, Hack Wilson, Philip P.K. Wrigley, Heine Zimmerman, Billy Williams, William Wrigley Jr., Bill Wrigley, Glenn Beckert, Jack Brickhouse, Frank Schulte, Ed Ruhlbach, Bill Lang, Ken Holtzman, Randy Hundley, Fergie Jenkins, Orville Overall, Riggs Stevenson, Rick Rushell, Western Illinois Leatherneck, Rick Sutcliffe, Pat Piper, Harry Carey, Ryan Sandberg, Yosh Kawano, Lou Boudreau, Bill Buckner. These are all Cubs Hall of Famers. Cubs Hall of Famers, not Cooperstown. William Hulbert, Greg Maddox, Lee Smith, Leo the Lip DeRocher, Bruce Suter, Margaret Donahue, Andre Dawson, and Jose Cardinal. Oh, I missed a couple. Buck O'Neill, Pat Hughes, Lee Smith, Greg Maddox. Those are Chicago Cubs Hall of Famers. Billy Williams has the greatest smile in baseball history. What better smile to carve into a mountain? Cooter says Sosa should only go on the mount if he is wearing his sweet cowboy hat. Harlan says Hack Wilson started his baseball career locally. He also owned a bar there and is buried in the cemetery, so we count him as a West Virginia player. Brian Wolf says, I usually promote listings, but got cheap and sales and views fell off a cliff. Went back and put them on half my inventory and bam, sales city. There you go. You got to pay to play. Brian says, corked bat Sosa, so I can't. John says, Mark Pryor. Let's see. Where are we at? Merle says, I see how to promote individual listings. Is there a way to promote a lot of listings at once? If you have a store, you can do a store wide. You have to go into your marketing tab, go to marketing and promotions, and then create a promotion. That's if you have a store. I don't know if non-store owners can do store wide or listings wide. but go into the marketing tab and you can find it there. Matt Skaggs, my buddy Matt in the house. Let's see. Max says Julio Zuleta. I was not high on Julio Zuleta. Mark Pryor, Josh Vitters, he would make my short list. Mark Pryor had a great career even with the injuries, but thought he was going to be Maddox level. I think, to the hype. I mean, he was hyped up to be, and I wouldn't put Pryor. I mean, it was disappointing, but I wouldn't call him a big failure or bust because of the injuries, and he actually performed. For me, and how I would grade it out is they were hyped and then didn't even make it past AA. Josh Vitters is one that, and Vitters did play a little bit in the big leagues, like a handful of games, but he had, little to no success. John says all players were the best from where they came from. All are extremely talented. That's why more NFL players are busts than hits. T206 drops Josh Vitters. Flipping Sports Guy says in Seller Hub, choose advertising dashboard under marketing. Andrew says Mount Rushmore of Phillies, Ashburn, Schmidt, Carlton, and Utley. Kyle says I promoted some card listings and did a buy 3, get 2 free coupon. Since doing so, I sold about 10% of the 350 cards I have listed. Promotions definitely matter on eBay. I would 100% agree with that. Mookie Chilson, did you mention Dwight Smith and Jerome Walton? I remember them being popular chase cards for collectors in '89. I would not, because they actually had decent careers in Major League Baseball. There was a lot of hype behind them, but they did have success. I mean, they were Jerome was Rookie of the Year. Dwight was runner-up to the Rookie of the Year. So they had some success. So I'm basing my busts on guys that were hyped up and didn't even pan out, didn't even hit the big leagues. Max says Madden might be the only person from 2016 to be a lock for the Hall of Fame, for Cooperstown Hall of Fame. And it pains me to say that, never was a fan. I was hit or miss on Joe Madden. I loved him as a person, but I did not love him as a manager and all the weird ass things he did. They won in spite of Joe Madden, the World Series. There were so many, I screamed at the TV so much during that postseason run in 2016 because of the shit that Joe Madden did. Pissed me off. Max says Philly fans would have nobody in their Hall of Fame because they chase them all out. Brian says don't care about PEDs. Tommy John is like PED to me, but altered equipment, not going to be able to do it. Steve in the house. What's Steve say? It looks like the cause of the incorrect eBay listing fees on my account is GTC listings auto-renewing and counting towards the 10K free listings for the month. It went over the free 10K as a result. Yes. So be cognizant of that. So if you have good till canceled, they're going to auto-renew. And so that's all going to count in your monthly tally. This is a major error because it would mean you could only have 10K items in your store. Not necessarily if you sell. So here's the thing. Say you have 10,000 items in your eBay store. You have 10,000 free listings every month. So if you don't sell a single card in February, they roll over March 1st, you still have 10,000. That's your monthly allotment. So that's actually something I don't disagree with from eBay. You just have to be cognizant of your good till canceled listings. If you only have 10,000 listings, make sure you're not adding more to that if you don't want to pay. Let's see. Merle says, thank Flipping Sports Guy. I'll look into that. I'm sure there's a YouTube video that can teach me too. Flipping Sports Guy says the GTC listings always count towards your allotment. Every month it's considered a new listing. Yes, sir. If you need a history lesson, then reach out, Max. Maybe you should change your name to Minnie to match your knowledge. Let's see. Jason Puck drops Moises Alou, one of my least favorite Cubs of all time. Gary Scott. Yes, he was kind of a bust. He was supposed to be the next big third baseman for the Chicago Cubs. John says Pete Alexander, the Phillies Mount Rushmore. Alexander, Robin Roberts, Steve Carlton, Mike Schmidt. Utley can buy a ticket like everyone else. Mark says Joe Madden did everything to lose that World Series. Agree with that. Frito Dorito says Moises Alou, 303 career, 17 seasons. Max says, good God, glad I blocked him. Imagine living rent-free in someone's head this long. That's why nobody has a wrench. Nobody has a wrench anymore. Hey, I was at 19 minutes and I'm begging for some topics. Here we are, an hour and 5. So we're going to wrap it up. I've got some shipping to do. Have a great Thursday. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. eBay links in my description to this video. So hit that up. I added some 70s cards to the eBay store. Added some Bowman to the store last night. So some Bowman prospects. I like it when I posted, was this a good deal? The Jackson Holiday. I bought 30 Jackson Holiday cards for $5, 17 cents a card. Hey, sold a bunch of 70s cards. And I've sold at least one Jackson Holiday so far for $5. And I love the people on Twitter. Oh, paper doesn't sell. Mm-hmm. Well, I just made $5. So after fees and shipping, what's that going to be? $3.50, $4. So, hey, I've almost made all my money back just selling one of the 30 cards. Baseball card curmudgeon here just in time to see us go. Let's see. Steve says it shouldn't count. It counts toward the account listing limits, but not new listings. But it is a new listing. So I'm actually on eBay's side on that argument. John says, imagine living rent-free in your parents' basement well into adulthood. John and Max, get a room. I think we should have a John and Max sit down. We'll do like a point counterpoint. John, come out to the Madison Card Show. Max is here almost every month. And we'll get you two in a room and we'll put a camera on you. Who would watch that? That would be riveting content. Max, John, point, counterpoint, YouTube. We'll open it up, YouTube Live, and we'll see Max and John debate on everything. I think that would be great. John, come out to Madison. So we'll have John and Max debate, Madison Card Show, main event. Let's see. Flipping Sports Guy says, yes, it should, Steve. In the past, the max listing was 30 days and you had to renew it every month. GTC was just to make it easier. Absolutely. If you want to avoid that, just do 30-day listings. And then that way they end. The problem with that is if you don't have a GTC, like for me, what a pain in the ass it would be to go and manually renew 30,000 plus listings every month. F that. So GTC is my lifeline. Harlan says, don't forget the guy selling your 1 million Cubs card on eBay. At one point, there were like 2 of them on eBay. Let's see. 1 million Cubs. Let's type in 1 million Cubs. One's been up for like 3 years and it hasn't sold. Let's see. When I type in 1 million Cubs, my friend George Castle's book pops up. One of my favorite books. So there's 2 on eBay right now. One's at auction. One's a $4, $3.99 or best offer. 1 million Cubs, 1989 tops, Chicago Cubs blank back. Well, that's interesting. I never created a blank back. I think somebody taped because it was supposed to be the Rookies app logo because none of those were. Oh, wait. Yes, they are. It's not the Rookies app. It is a blank back. I'm an idiot. Yeah. They are blank backs. 1 million Cubs. It is a blank back. I'm a moron. $3.99 or best offer. Who's selling this? JC40 from Zeeland, Michigan. This is the one that's been on eBay for like 3 years. I think it started out at like $6. It's down to $4. And then there's one at auction, 1989 tops, 1 million Cubs mint. Chicago Cubs. Hey, they even put my website in the address. And that's awesome. Thank you. Whoever listed that put my website in the link. Vintage Offerings. Put that on there. So thank you to Vintage Offerings from Sumner, Maine. Shout out to them. Vintage Offerings. I wonder what type of vintage. Now I'm going to have to visit their store. Let's check it out. Vintage Offerings. See, this is why I should use my StreamYard subscription. Search for anything. Let's do Cubs. Oh, they only have 3 listings, and one's my own card. Ryan Sandberg 2-card lot. Topps Heritage 2-card lot. Bummer, dude. So, where are we at? Winner fights Jake Paul. Mark's putting his money on John. John says have a case of tissues handy. Max says I don't have time for him, honestly. That's why I can't see the junk he posts. Max is calling John a senior citizen. Harlan says LOL. I hope he got it in a Goodwill pallet. John and Max coming to a Madison card show near you. John, book a flight. Max, get down to the next Madison card show, and we'll do a debate. So that's what I had for today. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Card Hobbyist wants a timeline of the John Max rivalry. It's only been a couple months, right? It's only been a couple months in the making. How did it start? How did the John Max rivalry start? I don't know. What's the background on John and Max? I can't remember. So with that, John is claiming Max as a dependent on my taxes this year. Small Town Collectibles, Reds 2023 World Series champ. Whoa, buddy. Whoa. Merle says there would have to be a weigh-in at the Madison Card Show. My thought on the 2023 baseball season, National League Central champion, it pains me to say, St. Louis Cardinals. Pains me to say. Makes me sick to say the St. Louis Cardinals will win the Central Division this year. Second place, however, is the opposite. Chicago Cubs, 83 wins this year. The Chicago Cubs, 83 wins. They get a wild card spot in the National League. And I don't know where your Cincinnati Reds fall. Third, fourth place, behind the Cubs and Cardinals. I think the Brewers are, and that's not a knock on Milwaukee, the Brewers. John says division titles have lost their luster. There is truth to that because now there's the 2 wild card teams. I would not disagree. So that's my thought. Cardinals win the division. Cubs second, get a wild card spot. Just need to get into the tourney at this point. That is very true. Very true. Flipping Sports Guy says, wow, 83 wins in a wild card. So a crappy National League this year. Absolutely. So what's the old Pacoda? Because I think Pacoda had the Brewers with 83 wins, the Cubs with 78, and I think the Cubs are going to win more than 78 games. Pacoda projections. Pacoda. Damn it. Okay. 2023 Pacoda projections. Let's just do Cubs. Pacoda. Pacoda projections do not love the Cubs. Where are we at? So here's the Pacoda. 2023 NL Central. Oh, they have the Brewers? Is this 2023? What? Yeah. What? So Pacoda has the Brewers winning the National League Central with 87.6. Is that correct? Yeah. And then they have the, Okay, it was Zips that I saw. Zips had the Brewers with 83 wins and the Cubs with 78. Pacoda has the Cardinals second, right behind the Brewers. Cubs third with 77 wins. They have the Reds in last place with 66 wins. So I don't know what the other ones are. But yeah, 83 wins. Second wild card in the National League. Let's see. Mark says Mets are a lock to disappoint me again. Even after expanding the playoffs, I don't think anyone has made them with less than 85 wins. Let's see. Nah, what was 2022 MLB playoffs? This year might be the year. This year might be the year. Let's see. National League. Philly had the least amount of wins in the National League with 87. Tampa Bay in the American League with 86. So let's look up. Can I just do 2021? 2021 MLB playoffs. 90 wins in the NL, 92 in the American League. And let's just go back to 2020. So yeah, it would be 83. Maybe I should up my maybe I should up the count. 2020 was that wonky ass COVID year. 2019. 2019 96. Oh, that was only 5 teams in the playoffs in 89. So when did we go to 2 wildcard teams? Was that 2021? Full season, I guess. Oh, that was only 5 teams in each. 2022. So we only have 1 year of results. So I'm not going to discount that. We only have 1 year of results, but last year it was 86 and 87 wins. So this year I think it's 83. Let's see. Who are the absolutely dominant teams in the National League to let the Cubs at 83 in? 2006 Cardinals won the World Series after an 83 and 78 record. Wasn't the NL Central absolute garbage that year? I think the NL Central is going to be garbage this year. Because I don't think the Cardinals are going to win with many more than 83. I think the Cardinals win the NL Central with like 86, 87 wins. The Cubs come in second with 83. What's the NL East look like? Phillies. What's the Pacoda? Let's just look at 2023. Let's look at Zips. I know that's free. Zips. So let's just see what the Zips projections are for National League playoffs. Zips AL East. We don't care about the AL. AL Central. AL West. Next up, the National League. Damn it. Zips Productions National League. Okay. Here we go. 2023 start of spring Zips. So we start with the National League East. They project the Braves and the Mets tying at 94 wins, the Phillies at 85, the Marlins at 75, Nationals at 64. So in the Central, we've got the Cardinals projected 91 wins, Brewers at 83, Cubs at 78. I think it's actually going to be flip-flopped. I think the Brewers are going to have 78. I think the Cubs are going to have 83. I think the Cardinals will have less than 91 wins. So where are those wins coming from? I'm not sure, but I think the Cardinals are going to be 87. I'd say 87. Let's see. National League West, we've got the Padres and the Dodgers. They're projected to win 91. So it's going to be tight. So let's see. So Padres, Dodgers are going to be 2 teams. You've got the Giants that are going to be up there. The winner of the Central will be the Cardinals. And then we've got the Braves and Mets up there. And then that's 5. So then you're going to be fighting for that 6th spot. And it's going to be between, at least based on how the Zips projections, you've got the Phillies, you've got the Giants, and then potentially the Brewers. But I mean, by far, the NL Central is going to be the worst National League division. So there you go. It's going to be a fight for that 6th spot. So maybe it's not 83, maybe it's 84, maybe it's 85, but that's what I think. Let's see where we at. Mike says my Jays are in the running. Let's see. Steve says, found it the following count toward your monthly allocation of 0 insertion fee listings, manual and automatically relisted items. The original listing in each monthly renewal for good till canceled listings that you end early or that we end early, duplicate, identical auction style listings. That sucks. Now CDP is useless unless I upgrade to a premium store. Yeah, I could have told you that. Unless you want to scale. I mean, you have, once you get, I mean, it's not useless. You can use it for a month and scale up to 10,000 and then just end your Car Dealer Pro subscription. Or you continue to scale up. Because yeah, you're that's how it is. Red Light 34 says go Reds. Flipping Sports Guy says the goal should always be to get to the point where you need to upgrade. I agree with that. I'm hoping to upgrade my store to premium later this morning or early. Later this morning or early April. Today or next month, I'm going to upgrade. I think you meant later this month. Later this month. There you go. So that's my thought. So now we're going to end the show. So hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. eBay link is in the description. New Bowman is listed, and 70s singles are in the eBay store. Check it out. eBay store, link in the description. Have a great Thursday, and we'll chat tomorrow.